This afternoon, I had the opportunity to speak with the King family. In this Newsy exclusive, I asked them how Dr. King's legacy, his life's work, can help us navigate an intensely unstable time across the globe. Take a listen. Mr. King, Mrs. King, Yolanda, thank you for taking the time today. You invited the Ukrainian ambassador to be here today. It's a highly personal day, significant to the nation, recalling your father's legacy, your family's ongoing work. Why was it important to have the ambassador here today?
So, for part of what we are pushing, promoting, not so much promoting, but encouraging in our society is peace, justice, and equity. And the fact of the matter is, we all know, the whole world is aware of this tragic war that is going on in the Ukraine. And if Americans and Europeans and people on the African continent and Australia, people in the world are saying, look, we want to see peace, hopefully that will ultimately cause a ceasefire. Now, the other thing is, you know, my father was killed in the context of violence and war. And he talked about eradicating the triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism and violence. Also in that vein, there's a connection because, once again, when we look at what's happening in Ukraine, and there are other places in the world, by the way, they are not getting covered, unfortunately. But the fact of the matter is, because of the Ukraine situation could elevate, escalate into a World War III. And no human being would want us, I would think, to be in that scenario.
And we see these new videos coming out of Bucha, Ukraine. People in the streets, it looks like their hands are tied behind their back, they're shot in the head, just laying there. They're in mass graves. And more, you're hearing leaders say this is a genocide. People targeted, killed because of their identity. I wonder what you make of that they're saying this is one group's right to exist, pitted against a more powerful group's determination to get rid of them.
Well, it really represents human beings, inhumanity to human beings. We're at a very difficult place, and then you can also tie some of that to what we're seeing in relationship to violence in our nation and violence around the world. There must be something that is promoting, and I'm not justifying anything, I'm just saying something has got to be wrong with our society when we are treating people. I think that we have a lot of mental illness. My dad used to say we are a sick society, and this is the manifestation of sick. His last book that he wrote before he was killed was Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? We're seeing chaos over and over again. He was challenging us to embrace community, and we have to create the climate for community to exist, no matter where conflict is taking place in the world.
And one of the things as well is that I think that we as a nation and as a world, we certainly, in a lot of ways, we idolize King. A lot of times people use his words as sound bites, but we haven't gotten to the point yet where we live up to his ideals. And so that's why it's important, again, for us to utilize this day to rededicate ourselves as a family, but also our nation and our world to these principles, because when all of us are living out these principles, we won't see what we're seeing in Ukraine. We won't see the mass shootings that we saw in California this weekend. We really will see the embodiment of us as our best selves as individuals and our best selves as a world and a global community.
Let me just read the words right over your shoulder here. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There has been a lot of comparisons about the treatment of Ukrainian refugees in comparison to those maybe who were from Syria in the past or Libya. Your sister Bernice recently tweeted that it was, I believe she said, sickening to see the African refugees trying to get out of Ukraine versus those who maybe were natives. I wonder if there are any lessons to be learned about future refugee crises, because sadly they're inevitable. Have we learned anything?
I don't think we've learned enough. I mean, if we had, we wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing today. And that's one of the reasons, not only as it relates to that we're standing for all the refugees of the Ukraine, that, you know, that with the a terrible assault that they're under, that we're that we are concerned about the way the African refugees are being treated, one of the things that we also are doing is working with an organization called Choose.Love. And what it does is it helps all of the refugees, not only the things that you think about, such as housing and mental health, but it also has particular programs for the BIPOC community, which is extraordinarily important, and also LGBTQIA plus. Thank you, Yolanda.
The young people know the acronyms. Exactly. It keeps expanding, so it's understandable. Yes. Yolanda, you're stepping up. 13 years old?
Yes.
Amazing. And Gen Z is inheriting this earth, right?
Right.
I was thinking about, I grew up in Pentecostal church, and I remember there's parts of the Bible talking about in the future that young people will have visions. They will prophesy. What is your vision for the world we all share?
My vision is that there's a world where we can, the best world, I guess, the best world. And that doesn't mean that it has to be perfect, but a world where there's not situations such as Ukraine, where people aren't getting mistreated because of their race, or because of their gender, or because of their sexual orientation. And the environment is restored and it's not getting destroyed and polluted. It's in a world where there's no poverty and everyone here has a home and a job and can support their family. And so I think that's the world that we need to create. And while there may be mistakes, that doesn't mean that we have to mistreat people or that we have to have wars and hate against one another and have world crises such as what's going on in Ukraine.
It's a beautiful vision. And I like that word you said, create, because we do have to create it. That's a verb. Final thing I wanted to ask you, back here in the States, Ketanji Brown Jackson is said to be, I saw the smile come on your face, Mrs. King, is said to be the first black woman to ever be on the Supreme Court. The Senate Judiciary Committee is going to take the vote, then the full Senate. It looks like it's going to be a very slim bipartisan vote to put her on the high court. What are your feelings about this new chapter in American history?
So I'll go first, Tony, just briefly, because you said some wonderful things today that I think people need to hear. That it's a monumental moment in the history of our nation. That and right now, I do feel that it probably is going to be a very thin margin. That to me is tragic, because politically people have lined up not based on qualifications, just based on some political gibberish. I feel relatively confident that she will be confirmed, and I feel relatively confident. I feel very confident that she's going to be one of the greatest justices that we've ever seen. She is beyond bright. She is. If someone attacks you the way some members of the Senate attacked her in committee, and just have been generally just attacking her for no reason, most people could not stand up to that. But she stood up in a dignified way and represented really the best of what this nation can produce. That's what she represents to me.
And I think the strength and the grace that a lot of black women navigate through this world. In a lot of ways, that's not seen or celebrated. And I do think that is no coincidence that, again, today, that committee vote is happening on April 4th, which, again, is the day that we all remember that it was the day that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. So while it certainly points to progress, I think it also points, though, to the way in which our country is so divided. And, you know, the flames of division have been stoked for far too long. And what we're looking at is to replace that and feeding the flames of peace and of justice and of equity. And then certainly as a mother, the way in which a lot of people talk about the tremendous amount of grace in which she displayed, but one of the things that I loved is the way in which her daughter, there's that beautiful picture of her daughter just looking at her. And I think that if we could all live a life that our daughters could just, no matter what, obviously it looks like she will be nominated, but even if she never sat one day on that bench, the amount of strength and the love and that her daughter that she has, and the example that she has, not only, certainly to her daughter, but to all of our girls, and especially black and brown girls in this nation, when for far too long their magic has been overlooked, their intelligence has been underestimated. So I think that it's a great day, but it also says the amount of work that we still have to do in this country.
On a very important day, we appreciate your time and your thoughts. Yolanda, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. King.
Thank you.
Mr. King.
Thank you very much.